Hi there. My name is Kayvon, and I am a part of Katie's dissociative system. I am here to talk about how mind control programmers think. Nothing that I say in this video is meant to be taken as a comprehensive guide to how people in this position think, or to be speaking for and about every single programmer who has ever been or ever will be. I am speaking from my personal experience as having known a lot of programmers and having been trained as a mind control programmer myself. My father was the lead programmer of a large division in Central Texas, and I myself was trained under him to take over his position when I got older. I instead was able to break free, deprogram myself, and am now making videos trying to help others get free themselves. And so that is the perspective from which I speak. I'm trying to shed light on this for people who are trying to free themselves from this situation or who want to help others to free themselves from this situation. I also think it's valuable for people and the general public who may not have much interest in really helping the survivor community, but who are still living in this world, to understand how these people think so that they can know how to avoid them and also how to protect themselves from them, as there are people in politics and in the media who are being manipulated by these people and being used to do their will too. And those people may be influencing virtually everyone's minds on a daily basis in some way or another. So I think it's really important to understand how these people think. I think the first thing to cover is that not all mind control programmers are personality disordered, but many are. A large percentage of programmers are narcissists or sociopaths or both. And if you are unfamiliar with how those disorders work, I highly recommend researching them if you're interested in this topic, because that could give you a lot of insight just right away into how people like this think and how people could end up committing such atrocities against others. I'll put some helpful links in the description below, actually, but I encourage you all to do your own research and find the kinds of information that will best help you. So, a lot of programmers have those disorders and thereby lack empathy. See their victims as objects, as pawns to be controlled and to exploit, and nothing more. And that right away explains a lot about how people who do this stuff think. But I think it's important to also understand that not all programmers have those disorders. Some programmers are like me and have dissociative identity disorder from being programmed themselves. I showed high aptitudes in the areas that are desirable in a programmer. And my father, being a programmer himself, really wanted me to take over his role when he died. At least that's what he told me he was grooming me for. So some people are cast into the role by force, by programmers who want them to carry on their jobs for familial reasons, or they possess a lot of attributes that are desirable in programmers, and programmers see potential in them to make good perpetrators, even though they have some empathy. Some of the traits in me that were desirable were extreme high aptitude in both mathematics and in language. I am both an extremely verbal and extremely mathematical person. I'm very good with computers, although most of that knowledge is dissociatively stored in my brain right now and inaccessible to me. I'm extremely talented at computer programming. And as mind control programming is often set up to mirror computer programming, that is a very desirable skill. It's really important to note that mind control programmers are often extremely intelligent people. Almost anyone within a cult can be a handler and can be taught to access programming in some way in a victim, but the ones who actually call the shots on the top levels, the ones who are trained for this particular specific role, are often extremely intelligent. I was taught that in the group I was in, a programmer had to have an IQ score of at least 160 to be there. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was taught, and I can certainly say that appeared true about the programmers I knew. So that's one really important thing to note. These are people who lack empathy or have been trained to dissociate from their empathy, who have high intelligence. Programmers are extremely dangerous people. I do not consider myself to be a dangerous person anymore. However, under programming, I am a dangerous tool. And I think that's an important thing to understand. While not all programmers are quote-unquote bad people or would hurt others of their own accord, we are trained to be vicious predators. It's no joke. It's some scary shit. And I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm just saying it scares me. Mind control programmers, however, are people. In fact, they are very, very human. It is my experience that a programmer is often so power hungry that they themselves can be easily manipulated. If a victim of mind control can make the programmer feel like they're succeeding in programming them when they really aren't, they may be able to thwart their abuser. They may be able to delude the programmer into thinking they are winning when they're not, because the programmer wants so desperately to believe that they are in control. I think it's rather obvious, sorry to trip on my words, I think it's rather obvious that mind control programming is about control. And that the people who program do so because they need to have a sense of control that they do not naturally have. And what seems to cause their feelings of being out of control? Overwhelming negative emotion and trauma. Often developmental trauma from very early childhood. That is what, to my knowledge, largely causes personality disorders. So that is one thing to note, is that the programmers are invariably trying to meet their own needs through their victims. And if you are their victim, you can exploit that desperation. One thing about programming and programmers that I think is important to understand is that a lot of programmers have been brainwashed in cult ideology to believe that they are actually helping their victims, that what they're doing is good. There is a symbolism in Monarch mind control specifically that is very sick, and if you're a survivor of Monarch, you might not want to watch this part because this might be overwhelming, even more so than what I've shared so far. In Monarch, there is, of course, the symbol of the monarch butterfly, and specifically the symbol of the transformation of the caterpillar into the butterfly. In Monarch mind control, the caterpillar represents the potential of the slave prior to their programming. The butterfly is the outcome. It is who they are when they are transformed. The idea is that the caterpillar is ugly and the butterfly is beautiful. That the caterpillar is just potential, nothing more, and the butterfly is useful. And that is really important to understand. It is not really about beauty or superiority. It is about usefulness. People program others in order to use them for specific purposes. They program others to use them as sex slaves, as couriers, drug mules, all sorts of things. And people program in all kinds of organizations, not just the CIA or other military intelligence agencies. And the point is to use the victim. All of that stuff that programmers may delude themselves into believing about how they are serving a higher purpose is bullshit. They're trying to serve themselves. And I think when a slave who's gone through this programming can let go of that, the idea that they are better when they're programmed, they can make a lot of progress in deprogramming. Because that was brainwashing. The truth is that if you were programmed, the person who programmed you probably just wanted to make you more useful to themselves.